thank you for being here. I mean, if you're like me, you're probably already feeling a bit hungry, but it's not yet dinner time. And to make things worse, the title of this talk is What's Cooking in Maven? And the title may give away that we will be dealing with food in some way, but we'll also be dealing with Maven, don't worry. If that is really an issue to you, you can help yourself out. If something is unclear, if you have a question, just raise your hand or shout. I'm fine with either way. And if I like your question, I have a packet of stroopwafels here. For those who are not familiar with stroopwafels, you want them, especially on top of your hot coffee so that they get a little bit soft and they melt down a little bit, and that really should help your sugar dip. Anyway, what's cooking in Maven? I think it was roughly 1 year ago when I noticed this little change on the Spring Initializer website. If you go there, the default choice for your newly created and beloved project is going to build it as a Gradle project. And I was a bit shocked. And it turned out I was not the only one. There was a GitHub issue on this, really. It's issue number 1012, where people were like, hey, why is that? What's the reasoning behind it? And somebody I happen to know Martin quite well because he used to be a colleague of mine, mentioned there, I just want to mention that Maven is working on a lot of the nice things mentioned before, which were the reasons for choosing Gradle rather than Maven. And most of them are already available for use. So, oh, there's something wrong. We don't want to have that. At least my clicker was working, but now it's the mic. No problem at all. Yes? Oh. Trying it. All right. This should be better then? Okay, well, I can't hear the difference. I hope you can. Great. So he kind of gave a clue. A lot of these things are being worked on, and some of them are even already available for use. And that is basically why I thought, like, I should be telling this story. I should be telling people, hey, what is cooking in Maven? What's boiling? And what can you expect to use soon, or maybe already use? So to introduce myself a little bit, my name is Maarten Mulders. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm one of the Java champions. I'm also an Oracle ace. I work at InfoSupport, and I happen to be a PMC member for the Apache Maven project. And that last one is one of the reasons why I'm here, to tell you about what we're working on in the Maven community, hopefully get you enthusiastic about it, maybe even get you to try one of these things yourself. So, as I said, it would be about food this hour. I'm a self-proclaimed Francophile, so it's going to be a French menu. I hope you won't be angry if I say that the French just have a better kitchen than the Brits. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. And to be honest, the Dutch don't have a great kitchen either. So at least we're on the same page here. But the French, I think they nailed this. So the menu du jour, or today's menu, will be the Maven Wrapper, the built consumer POM decoupling, the improved reactor, and the Maven Daemon. And probably there will be a few other things that I'll mention along the way, but these are the 4 main topics for today. Without further ado, let's get started and discuss the Maven Wrapper. You may already be using the Maven Wrapper on your projects. Anyone who is actually using a Maven Wrapper? It's that little mvnw.cmd or mvnw script, a bash script that lives with your project. And the main goal of the wrapper is to ensure that everybody who checks out your project from version control has the same version of Maven when they go and build your project. So no more README instructions that say first download version XYZ of Maven, install it over there, configure it this way. It's just going to work as soon as you check out the project. The wrapper works on any operating systems. So that is Linux, that's macOS, that's Solaris, and even on Windows. It even works on Windows. Can you imagine the engineering marvel that was necessary to get that working? And as I said, it gives you as a project maintainer the liberty to not bother about that version. Now, what is new here is that up until recently, if you wanted to use the Maven wrapper, you had to generate it using a plugin by Takari. It was something like IO Takari Maven, a wrapper plugin. But since you don't do it that often, people don't usually memorize. But as a Maven community, we figured, hey, it would make more sense to have this kind of functionality inside Maven rather than provided by somebody else. As benevolent as they may be, it should be part of the Maven project itself. So let's see in practice what that actually means, and let's get cooking. I have prepared a few demos to show you how things work, and don't worry, by the end of the talk I'll make sure to post to give a reference to the GitHub repository. You can check that one out and you can actually play with the demos yourself. So here I have a project, and we can see that there's a pond.xml, and I can create a clean environment. It's just as if I had cloned the project in a clean room. So I do have Java available. Should be -- Java, like so. But too bad I don't have Maven, and I don't feel like installing Maven. So I'm leaving that clean room for a second, and I'm going to generate that wrapper. And what we see that's happening here, I'm running MVN wrapper :wrapper, and I'm specifying the version of the Maven distribution that I want to use. I'm using the latest stable release, which is 3.9.6 as of today. Well, it generates a few files for me, and now I can go back into my clean room. Still, I don't have Maven installed, but what I do have right now is the MVNW script. And well, since many of you raised their hands when they said they are using Maven Wrapper already, it should be no surprise that I can just run MVNW like so and say, for instance, validate my project. I need to specify a goal, otherwise it will fail. Takes a few seconds. Takes a few more seconds than I was hoping it would. That's always the case. Let's try on the Devox Wi-Fi. Maybe that works more reliable than my hotspot. I was having my hotspot because I thought it would be reliable. There we go, right? Let's see if this works better. It should be silent for 1 or 2 seconds, and then it should actually validate my project. There it is. Conference Wi-Fi, always a mystery whether one works or whether one does not work, but this time it works. This is great, and I can also ask this version of Maven Wrapper, what version are you? And it will say, okay, I'm Maven 3.9.6, and what we can see is that it is installed in the M2 folder in a subdirectory wrapper, this, and then Apache Maven 3.9.6 bin, then some random string here, which in all honesty, I don't know what it means. I can tell you that it is exactly the same way as the Gradle wrapper works, so probably it was kind of copied from there, like, oh well, they did a great job, let's do the same thing. And then finally, the actual installation directory. So my project builds, but I didn't install Maven, because if I check if I have Maven installed, it will still say, no, you don't have it installed, but that's no problem anymore. and I can just start working on this project. And I didn't use a Takari wrapper, as I said, I used the Maven Wrapper plugin. With the new Maven 4, it will be even easier than what I did right now, because now I did, where was it? Wrapper colon wrapper. In Maven 4 we can just write Maven Wrapper. So no wrapper colon wrapper. But that saves just 6 characters of typing. It's not the biggest deal, I know, but still. Any questions so far?
How do I upgrade Maven Wrapper for a project which was wrapped like years ago?
If you generated the wrapper years ago and now want to use the latest version of Maven, I believe you can simply run Maven Wrapper colon wrapper again, or the Takari plugin, and then it should generate. When in doubt, just throw away the old wrapper scripts and generate them as if they were new. They usually don't get customized, because customization is done in different places. Nice question, by the way. So if you feel like it, you can have a stroopwafel. I never had that question before, but it's a good one. You want it now, or you want it at the end of the talk? At the end. All right, gotcha. All right. So this was only the entree. This is just to get warmed up a little bit. Let's go to the main course, the plat principal, which is the build/consumer POM decoupling, but decoupling didn't fit on the slide anymore, and it is also so verbose to write it that way. So the build consumer POM, and that's also the title of the wiki page that describes the idea, the design proposal, and the implementation. So what is the fuzz all about? The build consumer POM decoupling, as the name kind of suggests, it decouples the project object model that we have in version control from the one that lives in a repository. That's just the one-line summary. So today's world is a world where we have pom.xml in Git or whatever version control that we use. And when we deploy the project to, let's say, Maven Central or our company repository or whatnot, we have the exact same file. That's at least the default Maven behavior. Of course, there's the flattened Maven plugin and such, but I'm not considering those. What Maven will do, it will literally copy the file as is, including all the content that's there, such as developer IDs, issue tracker IDs, build servers, the whole stuff. It's all going to be there. But is that relevant to the consumers of your project? Usually not, because what we upload to, let's say, Maven Central is for the vast majority used by tools. Tools that just want to know, do I need to download even more dependencies? I mean, we all know the secondary goal of Maven is to download the internet after building your project, of course. Is that information necessary for somebody else that uses Maven to build your project? Is it necessary for IntelliJ that builds your project? Is it necessary for Ivy or for SBT? No, it's not. So why do we upload it there? Well, because we are used to this, well, we just copy the file. But we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to decouple them. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because there have been many requests over the last years where people said, hey, can't we change the project object model a little bit? Shouldn't we include an element for this? Adding a dependency is so verbose. Could we do with less XML for this? And the answer has always been, well, technically you could change the XML schema, of course, and we can write the code to accommodate for that. But if we would do that, and we live in a world where we literally copy the XML file over to Maven Central, imagine the problems that would arise. Because if we upload, let's say, a model version 5 of a POM to Maven Central, we would basically say to the whole Java ecosystem from now on, well, you can encounter a POM file from Maven Central that requires you to have a newer version of the tool. Whatever tool that is that IntelliJ, is that Eclipse, is that SBT, is that Ivy, is it whatever. we would basically break the ecosystem if we did that, because there's so many tools that rely on a stable POM with model version 4 that just tells us what we expect there to be, dependency information and such. And well, we literally we can't do this. Not at this point. Maybe we could gradually grow there, but we can't do it as a big bang. So basically the model is frozen at this point. But by decoupling them, we have created a way for ourselves to do things in a local POM, the build POM, the one that I as a developer use to build my project, that for you all as a consumer of that same POM should have no impact. Because we are transforming the POM that we use for building into a consumer POM, and we upload that to Maven Central. So we basically downgrade the POM, if you want to look at it that way, and say, okay, well, something that was in the build POM is not in the consumer POM, or the other way around, something that is not in the build POM will nevertheless be in the consumer POM because other tools rely on that. So let's see what that looks like in practice again, and go to our second demo. Which is the build consumer POM demo. Here I have a project which might be familiar in a particular in a certain way. I have an application, I have a library. They're both part of the same project. And what we now know is that if we have a dependency between two modules in a multi-module project, we always need to specify the group ID, the artifact ID, and the version, even though we usually depend on the same version of the library as our application module. But still, we need to specify that, right? That's what we all do. I'm not going to do that anymore. If I use Maven 3 to validate my project, it will say, I can't read your project because you lack the version for that library of yours. I can't build your project. But if I use Maven 4 to do the same validation, it will say, yeah, that's fine. I can totally do this. Because I can deduce from the fact that your library project is inside the same multi-module project, well, you probably want to have the same version of that if you didn't specify. Of course, you could still specify, for instance, if your library and your application do not have the same release cadence, but then should they be in the same repository? I wonder. Okay, that's great. We can actually validate. Can we also build the project? Of course we can. That's great. Builds like a charm. And now what we can do, we can look at the application module, target. Oh wait, I should have done install in this case, because I want to see that file. The app target consumer POM. Should have done app first. Oh. Well, never mind. Let me see, where is that file? I'll take that one, that should exist. Yep, there it is. And we can see that it added information that I dropped because I removed the version declaration for that library in my application POM. It's back. And there's even information added, like the dependency has a compile scope. I never wrote that, but it happens to be the default, and Maven makes it very explicit in this case for any consumer of my application project. Hey, it's a compile time dependency, a compile scoped dependency, sorry. There's a few more things that we could do. We could, for instance, remove the version of the parent declaration, and there was one more thing which I don't recall. I'm sorry. These are not there to change your life in a drastic way yet. These are there to prove that we can actually generate a different POM for the consumer of our application than we use for building our application. And now that we have proven that we can do this, this will actually pave the road to think about more fundamental changes to the model, to the Maven project model, that allow for more flexible configuration, etc., without having everybody else in the Java ecosystem to accommodate for that as soon as we release it. So for us, this is a big enabler. For you as a user, it's more or less, it's like knowing that if there's any confidential information in your POM, it will no longer be published to Maven Central, which can be a good thing too. That was, however, not the primary reason to build this. Any questions on this? None. Okay, cool. Then it's time for a little intermezzo in the form of some fromage or cheeses, which is improvements that we made to the Maven reactor. How many of you use multi-module projects? Okay, then what I'm going to tell you here is probably a frustration that you and I share. Multi-module projects were introduced in Maven 3, and when it was released, we already knew, or I wasn't involved with Maven yet back then, but still, that there were a few open points left, which we would figure out eventually, right? Because that's how we always do as developers. For some things we say it's not so important, we can do that later. And later is defined by how many people complain about it, basically. So the issue that we finally addressed is that the reactor, which was introduced in Maven 3 to accommodate for this multi-module setup, becomes more aware of the concept of a root project. The reactor, as I said, was introduced in Maven 3, is the component that actually reads the project structure as a whole and tries to create this mental model of, okay, we have these modules and these are the relationships between those modules in the project. This module requires that one, this one requires that one, and we have a dependency on the plugin that lives over there. Okay, so that means that if we want to build a project, we should start there, and then we can build these 3 modules, and then we can build that module. That's basically the job of the reactor. However, it had one big design flaw. It didn't really understand that there was a root project, which was kind of the umbrella for all the other things. And what we did is we made the reactor aware of that. How will it detect which project is the root of your project? Which module is the root? Well, if next to that pom.xml there's a .mvn folder, or the project root, the root project pom XML has a root is true attribute in the XML. And many of you may live in a situation where building your multi-module project requires you to do Maven install and then do actually Maven test or something like that. This is, not many people know that, but this is actually a workaround for the fact that Maven didn't properly detect this concept of a root project. And let me show you why that is the case and how it actually should be working. For that, I'm going to the terminal again. Here again, I have a project. It has a few modules. And there's an API, which is just a few Java interfaces. There's a coffee shop impl, which has the actual implementation classes. And then there's an app that uses the API provided by the interfaces. Let's try to build the project first. I'm doing that with Maven 3. Build has never been a thing. Go shame. Let's do Maven 3 verify. We have a test failure. Apparently we're doing test-driven development here because, well, test's failing, so we obviously need to do some work. The good part is that if I am not mistaken, I should have VS Code open here. I'll make sure to make that a little bit larger as well. And let's go to the improve reactor. To my implementation, I happen to know just the kind of fix that we need here. We just need to return a not null value. That's great. And Maven is trying to be very helpful. It says, oh, after correcting your problems, you can resume your build with mvn, whatever you just typed, -rf colon coffee shop impl, which was the module that failed. Has anybody actually tried to do what Maven suggests here? Did it work? No, it did not work. So we're trying to read that fine manual, because F is for fine, we all know that. We're trying to read that fine manual, but it fails on us because it doesn't work. Let's just do that for a second. -rf coffee shop impl. Oh, I know why that did not fail. Because MVN on my machine is hotwired to a Maven 4 instance. So I should have done this. Okay, first fix that test. It fails, and it doesn't fail because I failed to fix the test. It fails because it says I can't resolve coffee shop API. Why is that? It's in my project, right? We saw it in the first invocation of Maven. The thing is, what I'm doing here, -rf, resume from coffee shop impl, trims the list of projects to be built in the reactor. The reactor first has this mental map, right? Of okay, I have app, I have impl, I have library. Okay, so you want to run coffee shop impl. Great, that means I don't need API. Okay, let me try to build a module. And then we have a dependency on coffee shop impl, but I don't know what that is. It's not on Maven Central. It's not in my local repository. I don't know what that is. So, excellent suggestion. Let's try that. Because it doesn't make any difference. And I already knew that. Not to blame on you, because that's the obvious thing to do. The obvious thing is, okay, I know what's going on. The project is inside my, it's a module in the same project. So -am, for those who don't know, also make the projects that I am depending upon. But that still doesn't work because the order is wrong. It first trims down and drops off the API module, then says, okay, whatever dependencies do I still need? Oh, well, they're not in my project anyway, so I can't build it. Okay, let's try this scenario again, but I already gave it away a little bit. As I said, MVN 4 is hotwire is Maven 4. Still a test failure. Where is, there it is. I'm going to fix that test once more. I become very good in test-driven development. And notice, by the way, that now it says MVN args, so that's verify my case, -r. So it doesn't ask me to type something that that Maven actually already knows. I mean, it knows that it's literally up there, right? I failed on coffee shop impl. And still, I need to tell Maven where it needs to resume from. Well, you just told me, right? You knew it. And you decided to forget about it. So rather than me having to type again the name of that module, including that colon syntax, I'll just do mvn verify -r. And it will resume from the last project that was that was to be built, which is the implementation, continue to build the coffee shop, and then the build is green, as I was hoping it would be, because Maven suggested me to do this particular fix to solve my build. So this was, when I first showed this to a colleague of mine, he says, you finally convinced me to get back to Maven, because this was why I was this was why I had switched to Gradle. And now you got me back into the Maven camp. I said I only have to disappoint you because it's not yet released. But still, he's still back on the Maven camp. Anyway, improvements in the reactor. That means we have one thing left to discuss, which is the Maven Daemon. Anybody heard about the Gradle Daemon maybe before? Quite a few hands? Great. Because if you know the Gradle Daemon, then you know the Maven Daemon. And we can just skip to the next module, but I didn't see that many hands, so let's discuss the Maven Daemon as well. What the Maven Daemon does is it gives you a faster Maven build using a daemon process, a process that's running in the background to actually run your Maven job. How does it work? It does that by keeping the JVM warm and the plugins that your build relies upon. So it loads the JVM. We all know that starting the JVM can take a few seconds compared to a native executable, but also parsing your project object model, loading the plugins into the JVM memory, it all consumes time when we build our project. But we want quick feedback. We want fast feedback. We don't want to wait for a JVM to boot up, right? So what the Maven Daemon does, it keeps them in memory and has them readily available when you issue your next command. The Maven Daemon is itself a background process and comes with a handy CLI called MVND, which accepts the same type of arguments as Maven itself does, but then redirects them to this background process. What it also does is run your build multi-threaded by default, but this time without cluttering your output. If you've ever tried Maven-T, you would probably have seen that your build becomes a bit faster because it utilizes more CPU cores. But if something fails, you're in big trouble because it has printed output to your terminal just as it occurred. And since we were doing a multi-threaded build, there's probably 8 CPU cores or something building your project, and they all flood information into your console, and you have no idea where that particular line of output came from. Maven Daemon solves that for you by actually buffering, and only when the build is done, it will print it to the console, but then just ordered by module, so that your log actually makes sense again. And finally, the Maven Daemon includes the Takari Smart Builder, which improves parallelism even further by building the modules in the most efficient way. There's a quite aggressive strategy for thinking about, hey, but if that module is done and that module is still to be built, but it's waiting for that module, let's build it immediately rather than waiting for the next sequence of all threads becoming available to do work. Let's show how that works as well. Let me see. And for this I have a project that uses the Scala compiler, not because I'm a big Scala fan, but because the Scala plugin is quite a heavy beast to load, so we can easily observe the difference. Let's first see what happens if we start using the Maven Daemon. We can do Maven Daemon -- status, and it will say there's no daemon process running right now. That's no problem. We can validate our project, and it says starting a new daemon, connecting to the daemon, and well, the project is valid. That's great. Notice that the total time is displayed there, and it now also includes the text wall clock, but I don't really know why it does that. And never mind, we're going to build our project, MVND verify. Wait, let's not do that. Let's first build it using a regular Maven. And as I said, the Scala compiler is a bit slow. It takes roughly 4 seconds to compile one Scala file. Now I'm going to do the same thing with Maven Daemon. It takes roughly 3 seconds. That's completely expected, as far as I'm concerned, because it's a single module project, so I can't leverage my multi-threaded build here. And the first invocation, it needs to load that project and it needs to boot that JVM nevertheless. But the second time, it should be a lot quicker. And indeed, it is a lot quicker. From 3 seconds, we went down to 0.1 second, which is cheating a bit because I didn't clean in the meantime. So let's do that as well. And then do Maven D verify again. Still a little under 1 second, from 3 to a little under 1 second. I would say that's quite a nice improvement. This is just a simple project to show you how the Maven Daemon works. I've seen this on larger multi-module projects, and there the difference becomes a lot bigger, especially if you have a beefy machine with a lot of CPU cores, because by default the Maven Daemon will use the number of CPU cores minus 1. It will use that many threads to build your project. So if you have several dozens or even several hundreds of modules, you can easily see how that will give you a big gain in terms of how fast your project builds. All right, questions so far on the Maven Daemon?
Do I get this right that after upgrading to Maven 4, I don't have to write this T2C-T2C to run them in parallel? I'm just relying on Maven Daemon.
Maven Daemon and Maven 4 are different things. So if you use Maven Daemon, you don't have to do -T. But for Maven 4, it's the same as with Maven 3. You have to specify it by hand. But if you would use Maven Daemon, well, it will figure out, okay, I have, let's say, 10 CPU cores, so I'll do 9 threads. By the way, there's 2 distributions of Maven Daemon. There's one for Maven 3, and there's one for Maven 4.
So they come separate, unlike Gradle, I mean, because Gradle is starting daemon automatically.
Yeah, well, the Maven Daemon. Excellent, thank you. I forgot to repeat the question indeed.
Yeah, I'll repeat the question. So unlike Gradle, which have like daemon bundled with it, Maven, for Maven you need to install it separately.
You need to install it separately indeed, and you have to make a choice whether you want the daemon for Maven 3, for Maven 4, or both. I think there was a second question, by the way. The gentleman just behind you.
I would be just interested in, will Maven go into the same aggressive caching as Gradle is doing, like also only executing tests where the source file has changed and things like that? Because this is something sometimes confusing and sometimes also advertised in the
that's true.
getting into the Gradle.
But that is a completely different development in the Maven ecosystem, which I'm not going to cover today, which is called the Maven build cache, which works just as aggressively, I guess, as the Gradle build cache. I want to spend a few minutes discussing. Oh wait, there's one more question. Yes, please.
Does the Maven Wrapper also download and include the Maven Daemon? Is it possible to, use the general wrapper and have it download both the Maven and even the Daemon along with it?
No, the Maven Wrapper will just download Maven itself, not the Maven Daemon.
Okay.
The Maven Daemon comes with a CLI, a client executable, which is a native executable. So it's really hard to predict which one to download. That really depends on the machine that you're running on.
Another question?
Yes, that's fine, of course.
Maybe we do something wrong, but maybe you can answer this question. We usually always use Maven clean install or whatever, because we cannot rely that when we have built something, then we change a file, then we build again, that it will only build what is needed. Is this fixed in new version, or do we something wrong?
As far as I know, all the official Maven plugins, so the one that have a group ID of org Apache Maven plugins, should respect cleaning as a goal in Maven. So they should detect that the file has changed and then only then compile it, but if it was not changed, not recompile or reprocess or whatever. There have been a few plugins that did not properly respect that, but that should all have been fixed by now.
By now means the current 3.9 or whatever it is?
By now means the latest version of that plugin. You do upgrade your plugins, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. That's not everybody does that, I've noticed. And then people start complaining about things that don't work, and they're like, yeah, but that plugin version is 10 years old. I'm happy you're not one of them. We have a little under 10 minutes left. I want to discuss a few things regarding the timelines, because the question I most often get when I do this talk, and I haven't had it until now, so you can't ask it anymore, is when can we use this? Well, the Maven Wrapper is already available today. You don't need anything special to do that. Maven Wrapper, Wrapper has got you covered. Period. The build consumer POM decoupling is something that comes in Maven 4, which is currently, it's the 20, what is it? It's the 8th of May, it's still in alpha. But, spoiler, oh no, spoiler. So it comes in Maven 4 and we have no plans to backport this to Maven 3. It would simply be too complex to backport this. There's a caveat. If you switch to Maven 4, some plugins do not understand this concept of a changed POM, a POM that is different from what you have in version control. So you may need to update or even replace plugins if you make the switch to Maven 4 eventually. The improved reactor is also available in Maven 4. We have no plans for backporting this. Again, it's too complex piece of work to simply bring it back to Maven 3. And then the Maven Daemon, as I said, it's already available today for Maven 3 and for alpha versions of Maven 4. But also a little caveat here, if you have a plugin that is not thread safe, it's not going to work, because by default, the Maven Daemon will run in a multi-threaded setup. So what you can do is say capital T 1, and thereby you tell the Maven Daemon, okay, you did a great job in parallelizing, but please don't. And that throws away quite a few of the improvements that you would get. Summarizing, the Maven Wrapper and Maven Daemon can be used as of today. The build consumer POM and the improved reactor can be used if you're willing to run alpha versions of Maven 4 like I do. And this brings me to the last thing that I would like to share with you today, which is basically a question from me to all of you. Please help us out. How? Well, you can download alpha versions of Maven 4 already. They are being released. The latest release is alpha 13, and this is where the spoiler unfolds. We have just made the decision to move to beta versions. So the next version of Maven 4 is going to be a beta version. Beta 1 most likely. We expect to do quite a few of these again as we fix bugs that are hopefully reported by you all, and then finally ship a Maven 4. If you have downloaded that, and that's just one click away, test it on your projects, try it out in your regular workflow. I am doing that for years already. By now I haven't found anything that blocked me from doing my day-to-day job. If you find something that works differently and you believe is a bug, please report it by creating a little reproducer project illustrating, hey, I expected this to happen, but that happened instead. And I think this is a bug, and then report that back into the Maven development team so that we can have a look at it. Why the reproducer? Because that is the best way to prevent the bug from happening again. We've seen quite a few bug reports already with a proper reproducer that we could literally copy and paste into a test. And that test is now being executed on every build of Maven. So guaranteed, this bug is not going to happen again. That's, I think, the best guarantee you can have. With that, we have 4 minutes left for questions. I just wanted to mention, if you feel like playing with anything that I just showed, there's the left QR code where you can find the demos. should all be self-documenting. You can follow me on socials. My handle is the same everywhere, MTHMulders. And if you thought this was a great talk, kind suggestion, leave a review. If you found it was rubbish, please do the same thing. The 5 stars is just a suggestion, but honestly, I would love to hear from you what you think. And if you think it was great, let me know. If you think it was rubbish, also let me know so that I know what I can improve. Sir, you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, there's one more question.
Yes.
With the improvements to the reactor, particularly around multi-module projects, is there any change? Because the thing that irritates me the most about multi-module projects is the requirement to have the version number sort of keyed in both directions.
Between a parent and a child,
Yes,
you mean?
so that you have to, you can define it in a variable, but it doesn't actually work until you've pulled in it with the version. So you have to go through every single POM and update the version number. Is there any way under the new Maven that it could actually just inherit the version number from the parent POM without having to refer back using the version number?
We considered that, and we decided to keep the version number required as kind of a verification that you do not accidentally point to an older version of the project. Imagine if we would leave out the version. Well, it could mean that we are that Maven would try to resolve the parent from, let's say, central or your company repository, which is probably not what you want to have, right? You want to be sure about which version you will get, especially because you will inherit dependency management, you will inherit plugin management, etc.
Okay, thank you.
So, but that's you're not the first one to suggest that, by the way. So it's not a strange idea at all, but there's a reasoning behind this. Any other questions?
Any more questions?
All right, then once again, thank you. Enjoy tomorrow because that's going to be a next grand day of DevOps. And board games and the pub quiz. I'm looking forward to the pub quiz actually. And in fact, I think all the questions were great. So anybody who feels like I need some sugar, please find me here.